Hi, I'm Mike Davis. I'm from National Broadcast Services. My business plan calls for $500,000, which we intend to use for capital and to help fund our first year of operation.
My name's Rick Berglund with Filing Corporation. We're a storage management software company. Our business plan calls for $3 million in capital, primarily to be used for marketing purposes.
Hi, I'm Bruce Dennis, Millbrook Atlantic Studios in New Brunswick, Canada. Our business plan calls for about $600,000 in startup capital.
My name is Katie McPherson. I'm the CEO and director of Samantha's Online Galleries, which is an internet
So,
erotica
who's going to make it
company.
to the show? Stay tuned. Money Hunt is next.
Money Hunt is made possible by PricewaterhouseCoopers, committed to entrepreneurial ventures through a wide array of consulting and financial services. And Money Hunt is also brought to you by Yahoo Finance, an online resource for investing and personal finance.
Welcome to Money Hunt. I'm Miles Spencer. If you're one of the millions of Americans growing a business or even dreaming of it, know this: you're going to have to sell. Sell your idea, sell your company, sell yourself. That's where the American dream meets a crossroads. Find out right now if you have what it takes on Money Hunt.
Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico. Entrepreneurs from around America send us their business plans, and we pick some of the more interesting ones to be here on the show. Sometimes we like them, sometimes we don't. At the end, we select one of our guests to receive some free help and guidance from our Money Hunt mentor.
And that would be Reese Schoenfeld. Reese is a broadcast and cable executive with over 30 years' experience. During that time, he was founder and first CEO of CNN. And in the early 90s, he developed the Food Network together with Colony Communications. Welcome to Money Hunt, Reese.
Good to be here with you guys.
We're going to see some media and entertainment companies on today's show. What are you looking for from guests in that space?
Well, it's the traditional thing. Don't show me the movie stars. Show me the money.
There you go. That's excellent.
All right, our first guest is Mike Davis, who's backstage with Margot Lee right now. Margot.
Mike, how long have you worked to develop your service?
Almost 2 years now.
Okay, and what are you going to emphasize about your company today?
I think mostly about how quickly we can actually help a radio station to save money and how quickly our company becomes profitable by doing so.
Okay, the doors are opening for you, Mike. Welcome to Money Hunt.
Thank you, Margo.
Mike Davis is founder and president of National Broadcast Services, Inc., Titusville, Florida. His company allows local radio stations to outsource just about all their personnel and operations. Mike, welcome to Money Hunt.
Thank you.
I got to tell you, this business strikes really home to me. My very first job out of college was as a country western disc jockey for a station in Hanover, New Hampshire. So I'm really dying to hear about this. How'd you get the idea for the business?
Well, you know what I did is I've spent about 15 or 20 years working for other companies, all of them entrepreneurial firms, and I said, I've been doing it for everybody else, so what can I do now to take my resume, put it together, and emphasize all the strengths and come up with a company? So using all that as the background, I thought about it for a while and said, gee, it would be fun to do something in radio, and it would be a good service to the radio broadcaster because I can save him money.
Basically, as we understand the concept, you basically take all of the on-air staff and operations from mostly smaller radio stations and you just totally outsource them, is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Mike, how does the local color come through from Orlando if there's a wreck on I-95?
Well, we're not going to compete in that marketplace. People who do traffic reports are usually the more successful radio stations. The less successful stations don't do the traffic reports. They're just trying to keep the doors open, collect money, and hire talent.
Well,
and
you say you're going to do local programming for the station. What are you going to do as local programming if you don't do weather and traffic?
Oh, we'll do the weather. We'll do all their public service announcements. We'll do their local imaging for them. We'll do everything that the station feeds back to us that has to do with their community.
You're going to be able to give them winter weather warnings in minutes,
Absolutely.
seconds?
Absolutely. With the internet, thank goodness, those things are readily available to us.
Now, Mike, how much of our ears are being fooled already on the radio? Do we hear this already and not know it?
You do hear it. There are stations in some smaller markets now where the second and third stations are actually running automation that has been tracked by a disc jockey on another sister station earlier in the day or the day before. There's still somebody, however, sitting there running that system, which costs the station money, and somebody has to be paid to voice track it.
Now, you have different tracks for different kinds, for different size folks, right? You can do either some things or do everything for a station owner, right? True?
Absolutely. What we're actually focusing on, though, is doing everything for the radio station.
There are a lot of stations who do a lot of things for stations, networks that provide almost all your programming. Will you be the first network that gives you all your programming, no almost?
Yeah, it will be a no almost situation. And also, I want to emphasize, I mean, that's where competition comes in. We believe we've defined a niche that as yet doesn't have competition. Our niche is we're going to actually locally originate this and custom tailor it around each station. In other words, a network broadcast.
Well, you do have some competition, but before we get on to that, I want to ask a question about how this really addresses station owners' problems. I mean, I can see how this lowers their costs. I mean, obviously, you just empty out the studios and everything like that. I can see where it lowers their costs. But how does this really solve the station owner's real problem, which is declining ad revenue?
Oh, actually, I hope it helps that problem. First of all, declining ad revenue, we figure that he's got a fixed ceiling and it's always going to be declining. So if we can do anything at all to reduce his overhead, I call it the radio station in the garage.
That's right.
You know,
But the analysis
salespeople.
that you did in your business plan sort of, if I recall correctly, showed a $17,000 swing in the individual station's P&L that used your product.
Yes.
If I'm not, how's a $17,000 swing enough for a radio station to get excited about?
Well, if they're spending $17,000 in the hole every month, it's pretty exciting to just come up to break even and still own your radio station.
Don't they have to pay their money up front? Isn't that part of your business plan?
Yes.
The way you survive is because
Yes.
they're going to pay money up front.
Yes.
So they're bearing all the cost of money now.
Actually, what they're paying up front is just 3 months of service charges. And for a small radio station, that's only around $2,400.
How do you figure your pricing on this? I couldn't figure it out. Is it going to do it market size by market size, format by format?
No, it goes market by market. And the way we figured it was to actually figure out what it would take, our smallest market, having disc jockeys who were paying minimum wage, running a minimal hours a week, how could we save them money?
Let's move on to market and competition, as Reese nicely segued into. The consolidation pace is furious, and new stations are being added. That creates some fragmentation. But how you have less and less customers to call upon as they get bought up in this consolidation. Is that really a market that's going to evaporate?
If you're talking the consolidation of radio station ownership, that's not our market.
It's the little ones that are left
Right,
over.
it's the little ones who are left over who will really be struggling when that happens, as it's happening.
Are any of the consolidators buying down in those small markets? Aren't they concentrating mostly on markets above a certain size?
Mostly Arbitron-rated markets, major markets, and the major stations in
So
the
that brings me to another question. Are you going to have to buy Arbitron research, and does your plan include that?
No. Well, one of the things we state in our marketing materials is if you want ARB ratings, don't call us. That's not our job.
There you go.
Well, how are you going to know then the size of your audience?
I'm not going to worry about the size of our audience. We're going to take the station that doesn't have an audience in the market and is barely getting revenue, and we're just going to keep them afloat by
But you're also
That's an
talking
interesting
about
question.
selling national advertising for them, and how can you do that without research?
Actually, I believe that will open up a new marketplace. If we consolidate, let's say, Hoboken and someplace in Missoula, Montana, and put them all together, by the time we have 200 stations online, we are reaching 30 million households that have never been reached before by national advertising.
Cooperative group to sell to. Let's move on to management and money. Your plan calls for some capital. Tell me about that.
$500,000. It's capital equipment and operational costs for the first year.
Great. And on the management side, you have a great core team, but who's going to create the content and manage that? That can be quite a tiger by the tail.
Oh, absolutely. Most of the content we'll pick up from existing program directors, people who have good backgrounds, good track records. And a lot of it will come straight out of Orlando, Tampa, places like that.
How many formats do you think you're going to wind up doing? Because you're picking up the weakest station in each market, and that can be a different format in each market.
Actually, I'm hoping that because of cable and MTV years ago in radio, they used to say, gee, you have to do something different for our market, we're different. Well, MTV broke that down.
Yeah.
MTV now makes the whole world the same. So if we have 6 or 7 formats, I believe we'll be covering most of the bases.
Mike, this sounds like an awfully labor-intensive business to me. If you need 200 plus stations to hit your critical mass, you're going to have a lot of buddies running around doing local newscasts. How are you going to address that?
Absolutely no. Critical mass for us is 27 stations.
27 stations.
One last question before we go. No exit strategy in the plan. How do you get liquid with an investment in this type of deal?
Rephrase the question again.
At the end of the there was no exit strategy in your plan, no way to get liquid. Are you going to try to sell this business to
Yes.
someone down the road?
Yes.
And who would be a likely buyer?
I think a likely buyer then would be a major player, such as the consolidation companies or maybe a major network. Someone who really wants to say, okay, we've got an established market here that we're not into, let's pick it up and run it.
Mike, thanks for coming in and sharing your plan with us. We're going to take a short break, be back with our second entrepreneur right after this.
How can you find the right venture capital firm? Every VC wants an exit strategy, so look for one whose strategy is compatible with your own. If your investor is bent on doing an initial public offering and you're set on staying private, this clearly isn't a match made in heaven. Ideally, you want someone who understands your product or service and can provide valuable advice. Remember that a VC won't even look at your company unless you're seeking at least a $250,000 investment.
Welcome back. Time for viewer mail. Scott Gelfond watches us on WXEL, Palm Beach, Florida. I want to start a resume writing business, and I need at least $5,000 to start it. Do you know of any government programs who will give grants to home-based businesses? Well, first of all, Scott, I don't really think you need $5,000 to start up a resume writing business. I mean, what do you need? A word processing program, some ads in the local paper, and maybe some business cards. You should be able to finance that out of your own pocket. But to answer your question, nobody gives money to home-based businesses. If you really need to get money from other folks, I'd suggest partnering with a career counseling firm or outplacement center near you. They can give you some talent and some introductions as well as the money you need to get started. Our next guest is Bruce Dennis. Margot?
Bruce, did you get a good night's sleep last night?
Yes, I did.
Okay, any last-minute changes to your business plan?
No, I'll make them after the show.
Okay, you're ready. Bruce, the door's opening for you. Welcome to Money Hunt.
Thanks a lot.
That's good. Bruce Dennis is founder and CEO of Millbrook Atlantic Studios of New Brunswick, Canada. Bruce's company is building a major movie and recording production studio in the wilds of the Great White North. Bruce, welcome to Money Hunt. You come
Good
a
to be
long
here.
way.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how this business got started.
Went back a couple of years ago when the New Brunswick government decided they wanted to give money away to film and television producers. The only problem is a lot of producers didn't know about it, and when they did, they didn't know how to access it, and then they didn't know how to spend it cost effectively in New Brunswick. So that's where we came in.
That's right. So you're setting up the Hollywood of the North now. I have to ask a question, though. Canada has become the hot place to shoot television programs, right? I know Toronto's very big. I think they're doing a lot of things out of Saskatchewan. Tell us a little bit about what does New Brunswick have to offer that's different from what's being done now in Canada?
We have, first of all, the best tax credit available anywhere, bar none. It's straight 40% across the board for labor, and it's a cash. We cut a check. The government actually cuts a check to people for hiring New Brunswick labor. One other thing that we have is that we waive the residency requirement for keys coming in who can teach New Brunswickers the skills. So people from outside, people who are very qualified to work in the industry, can produce the quality while shadowing New Brunswick.
Yeah, it sounds all very nice and pretty, but and actually I think I've been to your area in a trip to Canada last year, and it's beautiful, but doesn't it all boil down to that location has to be perfect? Even if it is in the woods, even if you can save some money, unless you have all of the elements there and ready to go, no one's going to risk their production in a place where they may not be able to get this piece of equipment or this piece of talent.
Exactly, and that's why we're building a synergy of relationships, if you like, strategic alliances with people who have a lot of experience and background in the industry. For instance, one of the major equipment suppliers in Canada is working with us in this. One of the most prominent post-production studios in Toronto was also partnering with us in this. We're also hooking in with NBTel, which is our telephone provider, who are sometimes on the bleeding edge of technology.
Right. But aren't you eating from the seed corn of Toronto or some of the other places? I mean, you're taking away talent from any one of those other pools to deliver it there in your area.
We're not taking it away, we're borrowing it.
Or you taking away talent, or you're going to take away business, which I think is the real question. You think you can get business from those places?
We'll get some of it. Many of them, like Montreal, is just bursting at the seams.
What kind of business are you talking about? Are you shooting commercials? Are you shooting documentaries? Do you want to shoot features or television things?
We're aiming at a specific market, dramatic television, documentary, and feature films, but we're particularly aiming at the low budget, MOWs and so on, because we realize that in order to get our crew up and running, we need to have things that are not really high risk for them to learn on. You know, so
MOW, movie of the week, right? When you say MOW, you mean movie of the week.
MOW is still an hour costing $4 million, and
That's right.
That's that's high risk to
Relatively
unknown.
speaking.
Yeah, you sure you don't want to start just on $35,000 commercials or something?
What we have, though, I think we have a combination of bringing in good keys from Montreal, Toronto, or wherever. You can bring them in from the States, for that matter, and we can learn from the best.
Bruce, this is a good question. Since you're just starting out, how do you advertise to the Steven Spielbergs of the world? You know, what do you tell them to entice them? You know, come to New Brunswick.
Well, we don't necessarily want the Steven Spielbergs of the world. Joe Medjuck is from Fredericton, and we sat down and talked to him before Christmas and said, "We don't want you here. Not at this point. You'll drop a lot of money," and he agreed. But we're not going to be necessarily training crew and developing a long-term industry. We want to get our legs under us.
Is this a business or a school? And
it's both. We have a school, we have a business, we have to bring it all together. We have a government policy.
Another market and competition question. I mean, if you are successful, you're setting yourself up for a unique dichotomy. How are you going to compete against the other options in Canada once you're successful and you're actually competing against each of the other areas that are trying to do the same thing? You all run by the same government. So.
Yeah. No, granted, Newfoundland has copied our policy almost exactly. We have certain advantages that they don't have, and every film is not going to be shot in New Brunswick. Let's face it. We don't want every film shot here. We're looking for about 30 productions a year. We have started talking to producers in LA and in Vancouver and Toronto who are interested in doing their kind of production where we are, and they need the services we can provide to get them into location.
I mean, right now, I'm an independent producer. I've got a documentary. Describe to me the perfect project for your facility.
The perfect project, something that fits our studio and fits our location, if you like.
How big is your studio?
It's 180 by 100, so 18,000 square feet. It's kind of 40 feet to the grid.
Okay.
Kind
That'll do a
of a
movie.
standard,
That'll do a movie. Okay.
How are you getting the word out?
We have an 800 number, 955-1999. That's our year. We have also a website, www.millbrookstudios.com.
Yeah, and in the plan, you had given some very aggressive projections in terms of when you would be ready with the studio. What's the state of it today?
Right now, we're waiting for a number of things to get together. When you've got strategic alliances, of course, it takes a certain amount of strategy to get them to ally at the same time. And we're very, very close now to actually breaking ground.
Now let's move on to management and money. Your business plan calls for some capital. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Our business plan calls for about $600,000 to get started.
Great. And what would you use that for?
That would leverage other money from a couple of government programs.
Government matching. Is their government matching funds conditional upon raising that additional
That's
equity?
correct. That is correct.
So they'll put the second dollar in.
That's right.
Looking for the first.
Absolutely.
So ground doesn't break till the $600,000 arrives.
You got the picture.
And then all of a sudden everything's going fast. And you had a great team from a management standpoint.
Yes.
What would you add anybody after raising the capital?
Would we add anybody? Anybody who can bring something more.
Team.
Yeah. Anybody who can bring something more to the table. We have somebody, for instance, like Joe Medjuck, can give us some connections. People who have connections not only in industry but in the legal and accounting side in New Brunswick.
But
These are people that
is this
make.
really setting itself up as a venture deal? It's going to generate great returns for the area, granted, in bringing up jobs within the area, educating the people within the area, bringing other people in from outside of the area. But from the standpoint of a venture investment, where are the returns there?
Where we're actually going to be making the money is on the service that we provide. So we're buying in volume, accommodations, vehicles, renting vehicles, services, and so on. Casting, crew recruitment, so that we make points on that, and that's where the actual money is going to be made.
Bruce, you thought about doing some kind of like a public-private partnership where, you know, say a major film producer would come in and actually team up with the government of New Brunswick to sort of jointly own and run the facility?
That's in a sense what we're doing. Yeah.
Hey, Bruce, thanks for coming down. We really appreciate it. You can find out more about this guest on our website at www.moneyhunt.com. When we come back, our partners meeting, and our mentor chooses one entrepreneur to help.
In 1983, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman were aspiring artists living in New Hampshire. Late one night while watching TV, Eastman began sketching an upright turtle with a mask and nunchucks. With a tax refund, they printed 3,000 comic books. An agent thought they'd make a great toy, motion picture, and TV series. He was right, and the two young men became heads of a billion-dollar publishing and licensing empire. Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What a great idea.
Welcome back to Money Hunt. Before we bring this to a conclusion and our mentor chooses a winner, let's flesh these plans out for a minute. Mike from National Broadcasting. And the points for me, breakthrough idea, local weather from Orlando, even up here in Connecticut. No exit strategy in the plan, and that sort of threw him. Cliff?
This is a powerful idea. I mean, I've done local radio, and station owners spend an inordinate amount of time just chasing down people to fill the weirdo time slots. I mean, somebody like his business is just a godsend for the local station owner. But he's focusing on the local market, and I just believe he's going to have to build a huge critical mass to build any kind of a revenue. I also share your concern. If businesses like this take over local radio, what's going to happen to regional diversity
Exactly.
and local
Cliff,
coverage?
Well, forgetting all the social good, my major concern, the upside I saw in this business was the ability to sell national advertising. And advertisers aren't going to care if you have a 30 million reach. They want to know how many of those 30 million people are watching you. And without Arbitron and plans for doing it, this is a narrow margin business at best.
Yeah, that makes it very tough. And I was looking in their model, a $17,000 swing in P&L. Actually, I thought it was month. I guess that was per year. So there is a little bit of pick for the small station.
$55,000 a year for a small station.
Okay, so for a small station, that does make a little bit of a difference. So that's not too bad. But I liked where he was going, and I liked the fact that he was bringing it off the internet and using the internet to bring the weather reports and the traffic reports. So now through the internet, he is able to create that research, but he's also able to deliver it through the internet as well to these small radio stations.
Much lower cost.
Much
Impossible
lower
until
cost.
a couple of years ago.
Although I think that, frankly, a full-page ad in one of the broadcasting trade publications will get him a lot bigger bang for his buck, especially with the local guys.
Let's move on to our second entrepreneur, Bruce Dennis, Millbrook, 3 points, lots of leverage for a little bit of equity like that, but it's got to be perfect. You're not going to go all the way up to Canada to do a shoot and not have this resource and that resource. If he's successful, he's going to be competing against his countrymen.
But why doesn't he have a countryman for a partner? I mean, that's the whole idea. If they're going to government's going to put up $1.4 million for $600,000, this guy's going to be able to get 80–90% of that for his money, and he's in Canada doing business. It's a natural for the kind of partnership that you suggested.
See, Miles, I totally disagree with you. Movie producers are flocking to Canada en masse right now. Half the shows you see that are supposed to be set in New York are set in Toronto or some other Canadian city. So Canada's not the issue. I agree with you. The problem is more the local competition. He's taking business away from other local people, and frankly, he needs a strong partner. I feel that what he really needs to do is something more like a public-private partnership where he brings in one big studio who just basically locks in his business and does that in connection with the government.
Cliff, I see a lot more Canadian geese flocking towards Canada than producers going that way. So, I think he's got a great team, though. That's really
he does have a very good team,
paper.
Very supportive local government. When they do the movie of the shipping news, I hope they do it here.
We've got two pretty decent entrepreneurs in the media space. I happen to like National Broadcasting. Cliff, what'd you think?
Well, but given Reese's experience, I think he can awfully do a lot for national broadcasting. I'd agree with you.
It'd be a big surprise if you picked one, but Reese, it's the moment of truth. Who can you help the most and why?
It's clear that I could help the radio the most. It's a business that I know a little bit about, and it's in the States. In Canada, I think you'd really help. You need a good tax lawyer and a guy who can do a really good deal with the other guy who's going to put in the money for you.
So it's Mike from National Broadcast.
You bet.
Margot Lee.
Bruce, your company sounds like a good deal. An investor gets a lot of leverage for a little bit of equity.
Yeah, it is. It's a good deal for the investor, that's for sure. And it's a good deal for New Brunswick, too. I see a win-win situation for everybody in this.
Okay, Mike, congratulations. Good presentation. But they caught you on the exit strategy.
Yes, they did. It's something I didn't put in the plan.
Okay, well, I think you're going to get a chance to work on it. Here's Reese Schoenfeld's business card. Let us know how it works out.
Margo, thank you very much.
Okay, Miles?
Thanks, Margot. We try to make Money Hunt worthwhile for all entrepreneurs, and a big contributor to that process is our mentor, Reese Schoenfeld. Thanks for coming on today, Reese. One more question before we get out of here. What makes a great entrepreneur?
Well, Ted Turner, than whom there's no better, named his two boats tenacious and courageous. And I think those are the qualities that an entrepreneur has got to have before he makes it.
Beautiful. So you think this is easy, pitching your company before a bunch of total strangers while a national TV audience looks on? It's not.
If you think you're one of those great entrepreneurs, the Ted Turner type that Reese Schoenfeld spoke about, please get in touch with us through our online audition. Maybe we'll be seeing you on Money Hunt.
MoneyHunt is made possible by PricewaterhouseCoopers, committed to entrepreneurial ventures through a wide array of consulting and financial services. And MoneyHunt is also brought to you by Yahoo Finance, an online resource for investing and personal finance.